Felicitations, comrades! In preparation for my upcoming library tour, and in honor of myself having reached nearly 100 subscribers, I have decided to demonstrate to you how to grow a library of your own, one comparable to Alexandria. When amassing a library of the best of literature, the obvious place to start is with the classics. Many of these books you've likely read in school or have heard about from word of mouth, and so are everywhere to be sold. But when acquiring the classics, it should be in both lovely and affordable editions, as the popularity of these texts oftentimes do not justify the ludicrous pricing of most of them. Most classics can be found at bargain places at prices of $2 or less, or at rummage sales for $1 to 25 cents. Also, school libraries often have a surplus of classics that are given out for free to anyone of interest, so if you're on good terms with them, there lies your option. Have you ever read something by a certain author and found it so captivating that you wondered what else he or she has written? If so, run a search on that particular author's work, and make it your mission to acquire his or her works. However, be sure to acquire these slowly, and to read them as soon as you find them, as this can result in a surplus of unread volumes that will clutter your shelves for years on end. Such is the case with the works of writers like Edgar Rice Burroughs, C.S. Lewis, Neville Shute, and, most notably, Graham Greene. One of the best ways to expand your literary palette is to observe the reading habits of your associates. You will find that they often line up with your own, and by the same token, influence what you will buy. BookTube is a great source for this sort of thing, but also, if any of your corporeal friends' tastes interest you, consider those as well. Who knows? You might stumble upon the greatest book ever written. When it comes to where to procure the best literature, the places that likely spring to mind are Barnes & Noble in America, Chapters in Canada, Waterstones in England, or whatever the equivalent store is in your country. Many see these stores as the only way to broaden their knowledge of the written word, and while much of what is popular can be found there, purchasing comes at a great cost in the most literal sense. In your average big-name bookshop, the going rate for a paperback is anywhere from $8 to $17, and a hardback $21 to $30, preventing the book buyer from buying not more than 2 or 3 volumes before his pocketbook is bereft of its contents. Instead, rely on your local used bookshops for fairer prices and more diverse choices. Furthermore, this gives you the added benefit of keeping them in business for longer periods of time, as, let's face it, the used bookshop is going the way of the dinosaur and needs as much help as it can get. The average price of a used paperback can range from $2 to $4, with hardbacks ranging from $7 to half the cover price. But don't just rely on used bookshops alone, for many charity shops and library used bookshops or sales offer interesting selections at even more reasonable prices, anywhere from $1 or less. You will also be astounded by what can be found at these locations, so shop everywhere you can think of. Don't be afraid to pillage the rummage sales either. If none of the previous options are available to you, remember to ask about your local bookshop's policy on store credit. This process is different from donating books, as it not only allows you to get unwanted volumes off your hands, but discounted or free books in exchange for a stock of used ones from your library. It should be noted that these policies can change from place to place, as some offer $2 per book in credit, while others will offer 20 cents per book, with a select few locations having no policy whatever. Try it sometime. You will find it worth sparing your pocketbook the agony of expenditure. This rule is not wholly dissimilar from the second one. In order that your library might stand out among those of your contemporaries, tailor it to your own eccentricity and purchase editions of books unique to your literary views. Having trouble deciding what to buy? Look on the spine of the book to see the publisher's insignia, and if you enjoyed reading that book, buy others from that particular house. This will not only expand your collection, but lead you to discover new favorites along your journey, and will therefore cause you to take risks on titles you will not otherwise consult. The editions I collect are from Penguin Books, Hesperus Classics, Oxford World's Classics, and Eastern Press editions, which will be discussed someday down the road, as they are among the most beautiful works of art in my collection and deserve their own series. One of the prerequisites of book buying is to inspect the condition of the product before you buy, especially if the text is one often used in academia, as they can often be heavily annotated by the previous owner and make for a most unpleasant reading experience. Before buying, flip through every page for marks, else it will invariably end up among the stock you take back to the shop in exchange for store credit. Such sites as eBay and Amazon, while great resources to find books, can often be expensive for people on budgets. That, and most of what you are looking for, can be found at bookshops for more than half of the cost online. But if you have to spend online, be sure it's on something you know you cannot find in most bookshops, like the works of Paul du Chaillu, for instance, or the missing foundation books, anything by H.P. Lovecraft, the Oxford Illustrated Dickens, and The Monk by Matthew Lewis. This rule needs no explanation. Just refer to the pictured video to see why this rule is essential. In the book buyer's journey, it is out of compulsion for one to acquire as much as possible in order to curate the most impressive library. However, in direct contrast to the rhetoric of David Acquah, quantity does not always surpass quality, and much of what is bought on impulse might prove to be sticky wickets. They will either never be read or end up being hogwash after reading. If you feel as though that you will not read a book anytime soon, duly dispose of it. If it's a book that you loathe, cast it to the dustbin without question. Duplicate copies? You only need one, even if you don't think so. If there is something out there that you desperately wish to read, put it upon yourself to buy up whatever copy you find, even if it is in a state of the most terrible disrepair. When the content is so sought after, the exterior of the book will not matter much at all. Besides, you can always upgrade to a nicer edition, should you come across one. While most of these rules are integral for the construction of an expansive library, this final one needn't go unnoticed. It's your library. Curate it in your own way. If you want L. Ron Hubbard's Mission Earth series, buy it. If you want the Essential George Orwell, go right on ahead. If you want more copies of the complete Sherlock Holmes in your collection than Lord has albums to her name, then by all means, splurge to excess. Even if you want to purchase vast quantities of books that will likely go unread for years, consider the words of late science fiction writer Harlan Ellison. Who wants a library full of books you've already read? Tailor your library to your tastes and be proud of it, however miscellaneous or disorderly it might be.
I sincerely hope that these tips have helped you in your book-buying journey and will perhaps justify the miscellany and disorder you will see from my library. Remember to tune in to my live broadcast of my library tour, Saturday, the 22nd of May, at 2 p.m. California time. I love you all, and we'll see you then.